Okay, so as I promised, this is the video in which I explain the code for trace. Why did I make a separate video for this? Because it's gonna take a lot of time. I mean, a lot of time. And let's get started. So instead of going to JavaScript right away, I'll first explain what's happening in HTML. You have the usual stuff, the HTML element, then you got the head in which you have the style tag. So for every element you are putting margin 0, padding 0, over scroll behavior contain. What this does is that it disables the the reload on scroll down thing in Chrome, which is quite annoying really. Why they would make that anyway? So it does that. Then you have this styling for buttons. So it's position fixed, so you are taking the position relative to the HTML page directly, or the body in this case, I guess. No, it is, I don't remember what exactly was the thing, but it's either the body or HTML, and I guess it's the body. Yeah, or was this the window itself? I don't remember it, but what I do know is that it's not relative to something. Actually, yeah, it is probably related to HTML directly. Sorry, the window page. Yeah, so it's related to the window directly. Yeah, the absolute thing is related to the element containing it, so that would be our body element, right? So width 25, height 25, all that stuff. So like the good thing is you can actually resize body and stuff, and that would change this thing, right? Maybe absolute would work as well, because in the quarks node body itself is the web page, right? I don't remember it. Anyway, right, what was I doing? Yeah, the width and height are set to 25 pixels, so it will always have that fixed width and height that is related to the screen. I mean, whatever pixel is defined for that screen. Some background border stuff, border radius, z index. So that z index 6 is like the largest z index over here. So buttons appear on the topmost layer. So when you hover, your background becomes this color when it's active. Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be explaining all of this. Okay, then the layer class is for the active canvas as well as the glass canvas. So the inactive canvas, which I'll be using for doing glow effects and all that stuff, right? So that thing where I do the erase plus fill combination, and then it draws a red rectangle inside of which everything will be deleted. So everything that got deleted was on the active canvas, and the red rectangle was on the glass canvas. So I'm going to call it glass from now, because that's what I've been using for the whole project. Okay, so you have this CSS for layer class, which includes both these canvas elements. Absolute position, top 0, left 0, height 100%. So position absolute, this will be with respect to the HTML itself now, because when you change the body, now it goes back to HTML, right? Yeah, so it's related to the closest unposition. This is unposition. Oh, okay, it was position. So the closest not CSS, how do you even call it? Not CSS element. So something we have not edited, that is, right? So this is gonna go to the HTML page directly. So yeah, the HTML and body are different. I learned that on the way. All of that is unnecessary. Then you have this text class, which is for your console, not the console, sorry, the output box, which is a text area, and the input box, which is also a text area. So the input box you can manipulate, you can put text in it, but the output box you cannot. So see, this is the ID of the active canvas. We have z index 1, background color white. So if there was no background color, then in full screen mode the background would be black. I don't know, for some reason that's the case, so that's why I am putting white there explicitly. The default background also works when it's not the full screen, but for some reason it doesn't work in full screen. Okay, G is the class canvas, or the ID for that. I is the input text box, the text area. Yeah, T is the output text area, and you cannot change that. So you cannot like edit it, and I guess I wrote it somewhere. Height, color, background color. It must have been after that. Okay, whatever. D is a div element which I am using for scrolling. So it was in my latest video. Okay. Style tag complete. Let's go to the actual elements over here. You have this thing, the active canvas, then you have the glass canvas, the input text area, the output text area, and the div, right? These are the only elements for this web page, and of course the buttons which are added through JavaScript. So this is your script. I don't think this was there. Cross origin anonymous. Why is this script in my, oh yeah, okay, this is not the script, right? This script is for the PDF export. So it's a PDF JS, sorry, JS PDF. Yeah, it's importing that script. So this is not the script I was looking for. This is the script, rcanvas.js. So funny thing, rcanvas is for resizable canvas, which was initially my problem, that my canvas was not resizable. Then I figured it out with CSS. Anyway, let's go to the start, declaring all the elements. So mostly whatever was the ID is also the variable name. I should say constant name. Anyway, small c is the context of our canvas. So canvas is not capital C, it's CAN. I know it's weird because everything else is just the ID and this is different. Similarly, glass is different, but that's just the way it is. This rect I have not used, but I still put there in hope I will be using this later, I guess. But yeah, okay. So CW and CH, those are the width and height of the visible canvas. So once again, the visible canvas, the amount of canvas which is not which is not having something on top of it, right? Even though the canvas is set to 100% width. So when the editor is over the canvas, only a part of it's visible. So that's that fraction. So CW will be that fraction. CH is always 1. I have not used CH, but I'm still gonna put this there in hope that somebody else is going to use it. Okay, CX and CY are the number of pixels in our canvas. So those are just inner width and inner height. Windowed on inner width, of course. I omitted that to, I guess that enabled quirk mode. But anyway, I actually like that quirk mode thing because it's yeah. I actually even like searched how to put that on explicitly. Anyway, we are making this list of stages. So it gets the image data from our canvas, and later on I will actually replace this c.getImageData stuff with a function, but I have not defined that function yet, so I'm just using this instead. So it gets the image data. It's like the whole image, in fact, from our canvas. It puts that in the list. Yeah. We set the current stage equal to 0. So initially your canvas is empty. That's your 0th stage. Whenever you will draw something and then you will lift your pen or finger or whatever, it will cause a window dot pointer up event, and that will add a stage basically. Okay. Right, then you have these variables fx, fy, all that stuff which is related to plotting. So these are the frame widths, so in pixels, right? These are the frame widths, and you'll be using this whenever you want to make multiple plots. So for subplots, use this. And also I have this kind of a mess up where the text that displays the coordinates of your x limit thing and y limit thing, those are outside of the frame. So aesthetically that's nice, but that's only visible when these are not 1, 1, 0, all that stuff. So fx should not be 0, fy should not be cy, this should not be cx, this should not be cy, right? Then something will be visible. In the default condition, nothing will be visible, which, as you see, it could be good or bad, I guess. Okay, x limit is just limit, which is like, it's how do I even say this? So it's the range of X values that you want to show on your frame. So the bottom left corner of the frame, that is shown as the x minimum times, so x minimum comma y minimum, so 0 comma 0 if this is your x limit and y limit, and the upper corner will be 100 comma 100 in this case, right? If this was actually the thing, if you use the default thing. Of course you're going to change this later on, and I've even made functions to do that directly instead of having to type everything. There's that. Then you have this MD, which is basically move us, so mouse down. So whenever you do a pointer down event, so it's not actually the pointer down, it's separated into the touch down and window down, depending on what device you are on. So it makes this MD variable true, and when MD variable is true, whenever you will lift, it will add a stage to this stages list. And whenever it's true, on moving, you do the thing that you have to do, right? On moving on the canvas, that is. When you're moving on the window, it doesn't do anything. Okay, variable r equal to 1. I have not used r at all later on, but I'm still putting it because I thought I would be using it. Variable LW, so it's the line width, it's 2 times of r. Then you have the eraser width, which is 20 times r. So I'm declaring 2 different widths because I want that glow effect, and I want my eraser to be slightly larger than my lines. Okay, color equal to black. This is the color for your lines, your stroke color and your fill color. Font, so you can put text on canvas. This is the font for that. X0, Y0, you don't have to worry about that right now, but XY you have to. So XY are the position of any event relative to the canvas. I mean, that's at least that's what this should be. Okay, path X, path Y are temporary variables that I use for the touchscreen only. So on mobile devices, it's hard to render consecutive strokes fast. So instead, what I'm doing is that I'm rendering very small dots, and then just rendering the whole path once the user detaches the pen. So like if he moves it up, it's going to make the whole line, right? So I could be using this in future if I want to capture what the user did, but right now let's not do that. Okay, current slide. So you have the sliding mechanism, of course. So for that you have this variable. So again, current slide and current stage are different. Stages actually contains everything that happened to the canvas. Slides are, or I should say saves. So yeah, I initially started with the variable saves and kept it like that, although it should be slides. So this variable saves all the slides, so the images that you want, like that are important and you would like in a PDF or PPTX or something like that. Okay, so now we are setting this fx fy stuff, right, to the default values they should be. You have these booleans which are very useful and very important. Is create basically tells us whether or not you're in the create mode or if you're in the eraser mode. So whenever you click the eraser, it goes it becomes the opposite of what it is. So if initially you are in the create mode, that is you are drawing normally, clicking the eraser will change is create to false, and then you'll be erasing. So that is done using the composite method, whatever it's called, global composite. Yeah, I'm not gonna talk about that right now. Okay, then you have this is fill. So you have 2 modes, draw and fill. If is fill, then you are entering the fill mode, that is you will be having that red rectangle drawn on glass, and you will be able to fill boxes on your active canvas or delete boxes of your active canvas. Editor, this is the boolean that tells us whether or not the editor is open. So that is made true when you click the code, or false if it was already open. Finger drawing, I have not used it yet, but I hope somebody would. Okay, B list, so this is a list that will eventually contain all our buttons. Okay, Z, so this is the Z index for the div that is used for scrolling. Okay, I have this function remember. You know what, I'm not actually going to explain anything about what's in the inside of the function. So what remember does is that whenever you declare some value, so let's say you put lw equal to 2, then if you don't call remember, then every time you will resize, we will lose that value. So what remember does is that it keeps that value, right? Yeah, and it's used in the resize event itself, so that even if you don't call it, resizing will not make it lose that value. Okay, then you have this function snap. So yeah, just changing lw is not enough, right? You have to change the context, fill style and stroke style as well for it to show immediate effects. So that can also be done easily with remember, because it does all that for you. So just change lw, change whatever you want to, and then call remember, or alternatively just put the values in remember itself. So the syntax is like this: you have to first put the color, so it could be an RGBA code, a hexadecimal code, or whatever, or just put red, blue, whatever string like that. Put the line width, hopefully in multiples of r, because I'm using that as a unit. Then you have to put the eraser width, then the font for the text, of course. And I guess at this point you know what these mean, and then it will do everything for you. Okay, function snap, it gets the image data and returns it. That's all it does. All right, yeah. Function put, it gets so it puts some image in our canvas. So you could use this if you want to like import images from somewhere. Just make a new image, put its source to whatever URL you have, and then put that image on your canvas. All right. Function load, so it loads a certain slide. By default it will load the current slide -1, so the slide before your current viewing slide. Okay, function last, it loads the last slide. So it's the same as just calling load, except that it has this stuff. So if current slide is 0, it will print no slide before this, return. I prefer to use this while doing anything, because load causes a bunch of problems. First of all, it enters negative indexes, and those aren't made into PDFs. And I do have that functionality that you can actually start at some custom location for your slides, and that would make a PDF for those indexes as well. But don't do that. Just use what I have made. Don't do weird stuff, because then it's probably gonna give you some unexpected result. But yeah, if you want, you can. I mean, it's not causing harm to me, at least. So yeah, there's a function last. This function PDF, just by default it exports everything, so every slide that you have as a PDF. But you can put a start and stop in it, and then it will only give the PDFs for those slides. Okay. Function save, this is what's called when you click the save button. It saves your current slide, the edits to your current slide. That's all you need to know. That's it. Next, so this is going to go to the next slide, and if all it does is actually just increment current slide and load current slide. So it's actually the load that does everything, and this is like just calling load basically after incrementing current slide. But I want you to be using this. Alright, I don't want you to be using load directly, although you could. Just know what you're doing. Okay, function show makes a slide show. So initially your interval is 500, but you can set it to whatever value you want, and that will make stuff happen, right? It will make an animation if you set it to a low value. If you set it to something like 1000, then it will make a very slow slideshow. Okay, so there will be like 1 second of interval. This is milliseconds, by the way, 500 milliseconds. Okay, and just a reminder, it's your browser that you're running things on. You're not running anything on a supercomputer, so don't do stuff like stuff that requires millions of iterations. Don't do that, please. Yeah, this function copy, which copies your slide and then puts it on the next slide, so the last slide, I guess. Yeah. Alright, function so this works, I guess. Yeah, just save, then this pushes to the new slide, then you load the last slide. Okay, insert, it saves, so like insert just saves actually it creates a slide. First of all, it inserts it, next to the current slide that you're on, right? And then it saves whatever is on the current slide. So even if your stuff on the current slide isn't actually saved, you could say that on a new slide next to your current slide. It's a weird function, so I have not put that there, but you could always access it using the text area, the I element. Okay, function del, it deletes a slide, of course. Function undo, it undoes a certain thing, so it goes back a stage. Redo goes forward a stage. And then I have set these conditions where if your current stage is 1, it won't do anything. So that's why. Oh, okay, that's for current stages, of course. Current stages you can't access anyway. I mean, you can, of course, but why would you? So you can't access it using the interface that I made. You can, of course, access it using the code. Alright, redo, redos, of course. As the name suggests, clears the screen. So you can pass a context. So say your glass element somehow got contaminated. I don't know what you did, but if it got contaminated, then you could always clear the glass. So yeah, if there's a probable bug, then you could use this to clear the glass element if it really is getting in the way. Okay, function run, it runs whatever code you put in. I have some doubts with it. How safe is it? Should I be putting iframes in my Notion page with this function in there? I don't know, but I hope it's safe enough. I mean, it's not like you can access my variables, right? You can only do what's on your browser, I guess. What's on your device. So yeah. Then you have this print, so it converts your input to a JSON string. So okay, JSON converts it to a string, and then you print it. So you can use it like for logging variables or whatever. So it prints on the T thing, so the lower text area. That's all. Yeah, that's what I'll call it. Function dot. This is an important function. So it draws a dot. You can pass these parameters: the context, the coordinates of that dot, the size of that dot, which is the radius, not the diameter, and then it will do all of that stuff, and it will just draw a dot. And it's dependent on what context you pass to get like the appearance of dot. So for glass, the glass element, I shouldn't call it the glass element. For the glass layer, you have the default style being a red stroke style, and it's larger than your line width on the actual canvas element. So just be aware that it is dependent on what context you pass in. Okay, function get position just gets the position, and it returns these boolean values, which will be used later on in my code, but I'm not gonna tell you about that. Okay, function draw, this is what's triggered when you draw. So yeah, so like this is the function that actually makes it possible for you to draw stuff. Function fill, it makes it possible for you to fill boxes on your canvas. Function add stages, add stages, of course. Math position, it returns in a JavaScript object with your coordinates. So you could use this for logging stuff, on your text area. You could always say like print math position something, and this is done with respect to your frame. So you have to give it the coordinates with respect to the frame, and it will give you the coordinates. Yeah, what was I saying? Yeah, it will give you the coordinates with respect to the external page. Not the external page, with respect to the screen, right? That's what I should say. Okay. Function go to. So it's similar to the c.move to, except it's with respect to the frame. Similarly, line 2 is with respect to the frame. It's basically c.line 2. Function rect, it's basically c.stroke rect, but with respect to the line. With respect to the frame. So you have to give it the x, y, width, and height. So I'm using this function for making bar plots. Not directly, of course. I have a method to make bar plots. Function point. So it draws a point. Pretty obvious. Function plot. So depending on what type of data you pass in, it draws a plot. So this is the one that I should probably explain the code for. So you can pass these parameters. First you have to make an object containing your x elements and your y elements. So you have to make two arrays x y containing the x coordinates and y coordinates of points in a certain order, right? So in the order that you want, of course. So like x0 will be, so x subscript 0, that will be the x coordinate of the first point, x subscript 0, sorry, y subscript 0 is the coordinate, y coordinate of the first point, and so on for 1 2. Yeah, so you have to make and I've actually like put example codes, so you can of course get a feel for that. So you can do that. Okay, you also can pass an extra parameter called the type. So if you put type to be nothing, so you don't declare the type at all, it will just draw a normal plot by default, you know, a line plot. But if you do put something in there, what it draws is that particular line plot. So you can put three things as of now. You can put scatter, bar, and line, right? You can put x range and y range, which are the range of x values and y values on your frame. You can put the frame width as a fraction of the window screen. Alright, you can put the frame height as a fraction of the screen, frame left as a fraction of the screen, frame bottom as a fraction of the screen, and this variable frame equal to true. So if frame equal to true, it draws the frame. If it's false, it says, yeah, I'm not gonna draw the frame, and it just draws the plot. So by default it's set to true, but you can of course set it to false. In one example I have actually set it to false on my Notion page, of course. So check those examples out, really. Those will help you understand it if you're not understanding it right now. Okay. Oh yeah, also like I have to tell you about some extra parameters that you must pass if you have a bar plot. So for scatter plots and line plots, you can just pass the xy arrays and that's it. For a bar plot, you also have to pass the width. Yeah, so you have to pass the width, just have to, and there's no default value really. So I have not done that. I have not put a default value because I want you to pass the width, right? I could always do that, but that would make you suffer if you don't understand what's going on. Okay, function fplot. This is like, yeah, this is complicated to explain. First, you have to pass in an x range, which is the x values on which you are evaluating a function. You have to pass the y range, which is, once again put on your frame's y axis. You can pass n thing, which is the number of divisions that you want to make on your x range. You have to put a function f. So this is a function, f is a function, remember that. You have to put a function. And how do you declare functions? You can use the arrow function syntax or the normal unnamed function syntax, or you can like make a function and pass that in without the parentheses, of course. Then you can also pass these optional values. So fw is just the frame width, once again as a fraction. fh is also as a fraction of your window screen. All these are fractions, so it's pretty similar to the plot function, right? And then it plots the function for you. So yeah, and I have an example of that in the Notion page. So it's just like one line of code and it does something awesome. So check that out. Okay, function erase. So now we're getting into the user interface. So erase just creates, like, it enables the or disables the erase mode. DOF, you don't have to worry about that at all. So basically it's like draw or fill. That's what the function is. But I don't think we're using this, right? Yeah, I don't think so. Or are we? So if is filled, it draws, else it, I guess we are not. So we are using the draw itself. Yeah, okay, we are actually not using this function. Instead we are doing something different. So we are doing something like a radio button. So you have 3 different modes of buttons. So we have made radio buttons for that. So like I was thinking that maybe I'll put multiple modes, but then I ended up just putting 2 modes. So I could make a polygon mode as well. That would be a nice thing. Anyway, function code. This opens the or closes the code editor. So the div element is actually like, it's always on the code editor. So if you close it, you're also closing the div element. Beware, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. I didn't make a new function because that would make the user interface look really bad. So at least on mobile. So yeah. Okay, function resize. It resizes your whole things, like your whole interface. So you have to pass it an S quantity, which is a fraction of your window screen. This is like what fraction of your window screen should the editor be, and it resizes it to that fraction. You can pass the top and bottom, which are used for where did we go for the top and bottom? Oh yes, the top and bottom are the top and bottom of your button panel thing, right? So top is where you start putting buttons first. So initially it's a 0, and bottom is like the bottom where you start putting buttons from. Yeah, that's just what it is. You have to read the code to understand what's going on, or play with it. And then you can also pass this can resize. So what can resize does is, where did I go? Okay. Yeah, I don't remember where I was using the can resize thing. Yeah, it doesn't look like I was using that. Maybe it's that I was using it before and then I deleted it. Anyway, there's that thing that you can put for some reason. What was that again? What even was can resize? Oh, okay, yeah, this was like a variable that would tell if your active canvas is resized or not. But then I dropped the whole idea, I think, because now I have this CSS resizing stuff. So yeah, I was actually initially going to make it with JavaScript, which is a nightmare to do, but thankfully CSS was there to help me. Okay, function div, you can call this to make your div appear or disappear, that is above your text editor. Okay, function z in, just zoom in, and this thing is zoom out. Function full, it makes your window full screen. So these two functions are already put in your text editor by default. You can of course disable that by changing it, right? Like make a local file and then just change the thing. But yeah, those are there by default, and you can always like delete them at the very start, or just click run, and these two will be called, and then you will go to the full screen with div mode on. Okay, variable actions is all the functions that I want to use as actions, so I'll make action buttons for them. Toggles are buttons which will be used for toggles. Those are states which are on or off. Modes are like radio buttons, so either draw or fill, and if there was third element, either one, like only one of these three things. So if someone else like edits this, then I guess they should use this, because that's just the way I am doing it. It makes it life easy, I guess. Okay, so variable modes. Then you have this button high. So this is a list, which in this, so like the list's order, it's an object of course, but as a list, this guy's order, it tells us what will be the order of your buttons, and whenever this value is true, it will put the button on top, and if it's false, it will put it in the lower panel. Okay, so your panel is like having two sections, right? A higher section and a lower section. It's because of this thing going on. A create button function, you don't want to look at that unless you are creating buttons for yourself, in which case you might, but I'm not going to explain the thing. Then you're just declaring every button in your toggle section, your actions section, and in your mode section. Alright, and then you are setting some default things. So on resize, yeah, so initially your undo's opacity is 0.5, which represents a disabled mode, which is because it is disabled. You can't undo when there is no slide, so sorry, when there is no changes, right? Redo is also disabled because there's no changes. What you have made no undos. So whenever you do an undo, that's when your redo enables, and then while doing redo, if you hit a dead end, then your redo disables. Similar stuff for undo as well. Okay. You're calling this resize explicitly, so it resizes to whatever window you have. Then you have this stuff going on. So if your device is, you know, not Android, then you want to do a button click for the code button so that it opens the code editor, and this is completely just a preference. You can disable or enable this as you want by changing the file directly. Of course, you can't do it on the website that I will be using, like the website that GitHub will be providing us on my page. So yeah, you are stuck with this. You will have to open the code editor on your mobile, but that's just the way it is. I like it like that. Okay, that's why it's like that. Okay, then B list is initialized after all of this. I guess it was actually after this thing. I don't remember it. Anyway, so B list contains all the buttons, and for everything in B list you are setting a bunch of properties, which is like you're setting images. So if you want to like change the icon, what you could do is just change the image that your button like has in it, which I'll explain just a minute. And then you have this i.value, so you can change that to change the default code that will be on your code editor. Okay, blist.draw.click. So initially you have the draw mode on. Alright, and let me also tell you about the images that I'm using for the buttons. So these images are named as functions themselves, and they have the .png extension, although they are not PNGs all the time. But yeah, you can change these images and rename them in similar way to change the button icon. And there you go. That's all there is. There's this readme file which I don't want to look at. Okay, so that's it. I'll see you guys in the next video.